In September 2018, Kang Seo-jun sat in the VIP lounge of Pyongyang's Sunan International Airport, awaiting his final exit inspection, having graduated at the top of his class from Kim Il-sung University's Department of International Relations. He carried the weight of his nation's expectations as he prepared to depart for the Department of Diplomacy at the University of Bucharest in Romania. At 26, his heart swelled with loyalty and pride for his homeland. His father was a party official, his mother a teacher at Pyongyang's first middle school. He had been born into the chosen class. Comrade Seo-jun, you must prove the greatness of our republic. Go and witness firsthand just how corrupt the capitalist world truly is. The words of the party official who had approved his assignment echoed in his ears. Seo-jun nodded, making a silent vow. He would never waver. He would not yield to any ideological assault from imperialism. On September 15, 2018, upon arriving in Bucharest, Romania, Seo-jun initially believed his convictions were unshakable. As he unpacked in his university dormitory, he carefully hung portraits of President Kim Il-sung and National Defense Commission Chairman Kim Jong-il on his wall. Each morning, he would offer silent prayers before them with reverent devotion. It was part of his daily routine. But Romania was nothing like the collapsed communist state he had been taught about. Nearly 30 years after the fall of Ceausescu's dictatorship in 1989, this place was far freer and more vibrant than he had imagined. On the university campus, students discussed politics without restraint. Western pop music played in cafes. In street bookstores, the very concept of banned books didn't exist. In mid-October 2018, Seo-jun received his first major shock. During an international relations class, Professor Mihai Popescu, a Romanian, was lecturing on the collapse of Eastern European communism during the Cold War. On December 25, 1989, when the Ceausescus were executed, Romanian citizens poured into the streets in celebration. It marked the end of a reign of terror and the beginning of freedom. Students in the lecture hall nodded in agreement. Seo-jun's heart sank. He couldn't believe anyone would describe a great leader that way. But what shocked him even more was that no one found the statement problematic. Instead, students naturally joined in the discussion. Professor, when do you think North Korea might change? A Romanian student's question prompted a moment of silence from the professor. That's for the North Korean people to decide. But history repeats itself. Closed systems eventually collapse. Seo-jun couldn't sleep that night. Lying in his dorm bed, staring at the ceiling, he replayed the professor's words. Closed systems eventually collapse. Why did those words trouble him so deeply? In early November 2018, a decisive change came to Seo-jun's life. His roommate, Jakub, a Polish exchange student, taught him how to use a laptop. In North Korea, Seo-jun knew how to use computers, but only to access the intranet, the internal network. The real internet, that vast ocean of information connecting the entire world, was completely new to him. Seo-jun, this is YouTube. You can watch videos uploaded by people from all over the world. Following Jakub's instructions, Seo-jun cautiously typed North Korea into the search bar. The videos that flooded his screen shook his worldview to its core. Testimonies from North Korean defectors, documentaries exposing the reality of political prison camps. BBC and CNN reports on North Korean human rights. Seo-jun's hands trembled. This is just imperialist propaganda, he told himself. But he couldn't stop watching. Particularly shocking was a documentary about the 2014 UN Human Rights Council Commission of Inquiry. COI report on North Korea. An interview with former chairman Michael Kirby appeared on screen. Crimes against humanity are being systematically committed in North Korea. Political prison camps, public executions, forced abortions. These are human rights violations that cannot be tolerated in modern society. Seo Jun paused the video. His heart pounded violently. No, this is a lie. But somewhere in his memory, faint images began to surface. The starving children he had seen as a boy when accompanying his father on a provincial trip. The public criticism sessions he had witnessed near Pyongyang station. And the neighbor's family that had suddenly disappeared one day. On the night of November 20, 2018, Seo Jun entered another search term, South Korea Seoul. The images of Seoul that appeared were utterly shocking. Brilliant lights illuminating the night sky, streets filled with cars, towering skyscrapers, and people walking freely with bright, happy faces. Is this really the same people? Seo Jun muttered to himself. According to what he had learned in North Korea, South Korea was a place suffering under American colonial rule, where the masses starved. But the Seoul in these videos was more developed than Pyongyang, more developed than any city he had ever seen. In December 2018, Seo Jun joined a free reading group at the university library at Jakub's invitation. The group consisted mainly of students from Eastern European countries, Romania, Poland, Hungary, Czech Republic. Though they were the post-communist generation, they shared stories they had heard from their parents. At the December 14 meeting, Catalin, a Hungarian student, gave a presentation. During the 1956 Hungarian uprising, my grandfather fought against Soviet tanks for freedom. Though it failed, that spirit carried through to the 1989 regime change. Seo Jun quietly asked, "But what do you think freedom is? Is it worth risking your life for?" Catalin looked at Seo Jun with a gentle smile. "Seo Jun, I think you haven't truly experienced real freedom yet. Freedom is being able to say what you want, read what you want, choose your own life, without anyone's permission." That night, returning to his dorm, Seo Jun was lost in thought for a long time. He had walked the path the party laid out for him his entire life. What school to attend, what to study, even who to befriend, all under party guidance. He had thought this was normal. January 2019 arrived. Seo Jun had already been in Bucharest for 4 months. The North Korean embassy regularly summoned students for life reviews, self-criticism sessions. Each time, Seo Jun gave perfunctory reports about witnessing the corruption of capitalism. But by January 25, 2019, his heart was already wavering. That day, Seo Jun encountered a Korean drama for the first time. Jakub was watching a drama called Goblin on Netflix, and Seo Jun happened to watch it with him. The streets of Seoul on screen, people's natural conversations, free romance. Everything was new, particularly when the protagonists casually criticized the government and satirized chaebols. Seo Jun was speechless. Is it okay to broadcast something like that? At Seo Jun's question, Jakub laughed and replied, "Of course. It's freedom of expression. Can't you do that in your country?" Seo Jun couldn't answer. In February 2019, Seo Jun discovered the memoir, I Saw the Truth of History, by Wang Jang-yop, former secretary of the North Korean Workers' Party, in the library. A defection memoir by a top-level North Korean official. Seo Jun opened the book with trembling hands. I was at the core of the North Korean system. I was one of those who created Juche ideology. But I came to realize it wasn't an ideology for the people, it was a tool to justify dictatorship. Throughout reading the book, tears streamed down Seo Jun's face. Tears mixed with anger, sadness, and confusion. Has everything I've believed my whole life been a lie? Has the homeland I've been loyal to actually been a giant prison? On March 10, 2019, Seo Jun visited the Museum of Communism on the outskirts of Bucharest with Jakub. It displayed artifacts from the Ceausescu-era surveillance cameras, wiretapping devices, secret police records, and writings from political prisoners. Standing before the exhibits, Seo-jun felt an eerie sense of déjà vu. This wasn't Romania's past. It was North Korea's present. Seo-jun, are you okay? Jakub asked with concern. Seo-jun's face had turned pale. I don't know. That night, sitting at his dorm desk, Seo-jun wrote in his diary a secret journal he had brought from North Korea. March 10, 2019. Today I saw the grave of history. And I realized that my homeland still stands on that grave. What should I do? Should I turn away from this truth and return? Or, Seo-jun stopped writing. He didn't have the courage to write what came after, or. But in his heart, one word was already quietly growing. Escape. At the end of March 2019, Seo-jun cautiously typed a phrase into the search bar, defection from North Korea. Looking at the information that appeared on screen, Seo-jun knew he would soon have to make the most critical decision of his life. Outside, spring rain fell over Bucharest. Seo-jun opened the window. Cold raindrops touched his face. They felt different from any rain he had experienced in North Korea. It was rain mixed with the scent of freedom. Seo-jun made his decision. He could no longer live trapped in a false reality. Even though the road ahead would be difficult and the choice irreversible, he decided to move toward the truth. On April 1, 2019, he quietly made a vow. I will become a free person. From that day forward, Kang Seo-jun's true journey began. In mid-April 2019, Kang Seo-jun's daily life was filled with extreme tension. On the surface, he attended classes as usual, submitted assignments, and never missed the embassy's life review sessions. But internally, his escape plan was taking concrete shape with each passing moment. He gathered information cautiously. Using the library computers, he researched defector routes and confirmed the location of the South Korean embassy. The Embassy of the Republic of Korea in downtown Bucharest was about a 40-minute bus ride from his dormitory. But going there directly would be far too dangerous. The North Korean embassy's surveillance network wouldn't let him slip through. At 2:17 p.m. on May 3, 2019, Seo-jun's cell phone rang. The moment he saw the number on the screen, his heart froze. It was the North Korean embassy. Hello? Seo-jun answered in as calm a voice as he could muster. Is this Comrade Kang Seo-jun? This is Counselor Ri. There's a problem with your visa documents. You need to come to the embassy by 10 a.m. tomorrow. You must come. Understand? Counselor Ri's voice on the other end was sharper than usual. Seo-jun sensed an ominous foreboding in that tone. Yes, I understand. I'll come first thing in the morning. After hanging up, Seo-jun's hands trembled violently. The mention of a visa problem was a kind of code word, a common pretext for summoning overseas students. In 2017, a senior student who lived in the same dormitory had received the same call, gone to the embassy, and been sent straight back to Pyongyang. No one knew what wrong he had committed. Only rumors circulated that he had frequently used the internet. Did they find out about my internet usage? Or did someone report me? Seo-jun sat at his desk, organizing his thoughts. If he went to the embassy tomorrow, there was a high probability he'd be put on a plane to Pyongyang. And once he arrived in Pyongyang, he didn't want to think any further. At 4 p.m. on May 3, 2019, Seo-jun made his decision. There was no more time to delay. Tonight, he had to escape. With trembling hands, Seo-jun opened his laptop. There was someone he had been secretly contacting over the past few weeks, Pastor Kim Yo-han of the Bucharest Korean Church. In early April, about a month earlier, Seo Jun had gathered the courage to visit that church. During the Sunday 11 a.m. service, he sat quietly in the back row. In North Korea, religion was taught as the opiate of the people, but he could no longer believe what he had been taught. After the service, Pastor Kim approached him, a gentle-looking man in his late 50s. "Is this your first time?" "Welcome." "Yes, I'm." As Seo Jun hesitated, Pastor Kim smiled quietly and said, "Take your time. This is a safe place." After that day, Seo Jun visited the church several more times and cautiously shared his situation with Pastor Kim. Pastor Kim wasn't surprised. He had already helped several North Korean defectors. "Mr. Seo Jun, if you've made your decision, I'll help you. But this path is perilous. Think carefully." Now the moment had come when he needed that help. At 5 p.m. on May 3, 2019, Seo Jun sent a brief message to Pastor Kim via encrypted messenger. "Embassy summons tomorrow morning. Must leave tonight." 15 minutes later, a reply came. "Come to the church's back door at 10 p.m. Minimal luggage. Leave your cell phone in the dorm." At 7 p.m. on May 3, 2019, Seo Jun made his final preparations in his dorm room. His roommate Yakub had left for his hometown of Warsaw for the weekend. Seo Jun was alone in the room. He packed a small backpack with his passport, €500 in cash, one change of clothes, and one photo of his mother. He had secretly brought the photo when leaving Pyongyang. In the picture, his mother was smiling brightly. Seo Jun stared at the photo for a long time before quietly murmuring, "Mother, please forgive me. I must survive." He left his laptop open on the desk, playing music from YouTube. If anyone came to check on him, it would look like he was still in the room. He left his cell phone on the bed to avoid GPS tracking. At 9:30 p.m. on May 3, 2019, Seo Jun left the dormitory. He pretended to be going for an evening walk as usual. He greeted the security guard casually. "Just going for an evening walk. Come back early." Leaving the guard's reply behind, Seo Jun walked into the darkness. His heart pounded as if it would burst. He wanted to look back, but held himself back. He had to walk naturally, without arousing suspicion. At exactly 10 p.m. on May 3, 2019, Seo Jun arrived at the back door of the Korean church. Pastor Kim was waiting in the darkness. And beside him stood a South Korean man who appeared to be in his early 40s. "Mr. Seo Jun, this is Mr. Park. He's connected with the embassy." Mr. Park nodded briefly and said, "We have no time. We must leave right now. The car is waiting over there." The three men got into a black sedan parked in the alley behind the church. A Romanian-looking man sat in the driver's seat. The car departed immediately. "Where are we going?" Seo Jun asked. "To Budapest, Hungary. The Embassy of the Republic of Korea will protect you there. It's about 850 kilometers from here, about a 10-hour drive." At Mr. Park's explanation, Seo Jun tensed. 10 hours. What would happen if the North Korean embassy started looking for him during that long time? "When I don't show up at the embassy tomorrow morning, they'll immediately start searching." Pastor Kim responded to Seo Jun's words. "That's why time is critical. We must cross the Hungarian border before 6 a.m. Once we enter Hungary, the Romanian authorities can't reach us." The car entered the highway on the outskirts of Bucharest. At 10:30 p.m., the city lights gradually receded through the window. Seo Jun leaned his forehead against the window, feeling a complex mix of emotions. Liberation, fear, guilt, hope. All the feelings came rushing at once. At midnight on May 3, 2019, the car was passing through the Transylvania region of northern Romania. It was deep mountainous terrain. Driving along dark roads without streetlights, Seo Jun couldn't relax his tension. What if there's a checkpoint? Seo Jun asked. Your passport is valid. Your Romanian student visa is also legitimate. Just act like a student going on a trip. Never show that you're nervous. That was Mr. Park's advice. At 230 a.m. on May 4, 2019, the car stopped briefly at a rest area. They used the restroom and had some coffee. Inside the rest stop were several truck drivers. Seo Jun pulled his cap down low and kept his head down. Pastor Kim patted his shoulder. Mr. Seo Jun, are you okay? We haven't even reached halfway. Yes, I'm fine. But Pastor, yes? Why are you helping me? This is dangerous. Pastor Kim was silent for a moment before answering. I was once a soldier, too. In the late 1990s, I served as a North Korean border guard and then defected. Because someone helped me, I'm here now. Now it's my turn to help. Seo Jun was hearing about Pastor Kim's past for the first time. He felt solemn. Thank you. Really, thank you. At 540 a.m. on May 4, 2019, the car arrived at the Romania-Hungary border checkpoint at Nadlac. Just before dawn, the sky was still dark, but a faint light was beginning to shine in the eastern sky. Several vehicles were lined up in front of the checkpoint. Seo Jun's heart leapt to his throat. Although Romania and Hungary were both EU member states, passage verification still took place. Prepare your passports. Stay calm, Mr. Park said in a low voice. When their turn came, the car pulled up to the checkpoint. A Romanian border guard tapped on the window. The driver rolled it down. Show me your passports. At the guard's words, all four people handed over their passports. The guard checked them one by one. He paused when looking at Seo Jun's passport. A North Korean passport. Are you a student? Yes, I'm a student at the University of Bucharest. I'm traveling to Budapest with friends. Seo Jun answered as naturally as possible. His hands were drenched with sweat. The guard checked something on his computer. Those few seconds felt like an eternity to Seo Jun. Has an arrest warrant already been issued? Am I about to be arrested right now? All right, you may pass. The guard returned the passport. The barrier lifted. The car moved slowly forward. At 547 a.m. on May 4, 2019, the car entered Hungarian territory. We made it. You're safe now. At Mr. Park's words, Seo Jun finally released his tension. Tears burst forth. He covered his face with his hands and sobbed. I survived. I survived. Pastor Kim patted his back. Well done, Mr. Seo Jun. You've passed the most dangerous hurdle. After crossing the Hungarian border, the car continued northwest. The destination was Budapest, Hungary's capital. They still had about 200 kilometers to go. After 6 a.m., the sky brightened. Through the window, the Hungarian plains stretched out. Seo Jun gazed blankly at the landscape. It was his first morning in the land of freedom. At 920 a.m. on May 4, 2019, the car entered downtown Budapest. It was a beautiful city where the Danube River flowed. The car stopped in front of a building in the Namsan district. It was the Embassy of the Republic of Korea. We've arrived. That's the Embassy of the Republic of Korea. Mr. Park said. Seo Jun shouldered his bag and got out of the car. His legs were shaking. It had been an 11-hour journey. In front of the embassy's main gate, Seo Jun stopped for a moment. He could see the Taegukji flag waving above the building. At that moment, Seo Jun couldn't hold back his tears. Is that flag going to become my country's flag now? Pastor Kim grasped his shoulder. Go inside, Mr. Seo Jun. A new life begins. Seo Jun took a deep breath. Then he walked toward the embassy door. At 930 a.m. On May 4, 2019, Kang Seo-jun applied for protection at the Embassy of the Republic of Korea. The consul welcomed him warmly. "Welcome to Korea. You're safe now." The moment he heard those words, Seo-jun collapsed to the floor. The string of tension had snapped. He broke down sobbing. An escape risking his life, 11 hours of terror, and finally, freedom. It was the moment Kang Seo-jun's second life began. On May 20, 2019, Kang Seo-jun set foot in Incheon International Airport. After 16 days of waiting at the Budapest embassy, he had finally stepped onto South Korean soil. As he exited the arrival hall, he was greeted by officials from the Ministry of Unification. "Mr. Kang Seo-jun, welcome. You've been through so much. From now on, we'll guide you." A woman in her mid-40s spoke warmly. Seo-jun nodded, but anxiety still lingered in his heart. Am I really safe? Could North Korea's reach extend even here? The car they boarded at the airport headed toward Ansong in Gyeonggi Province. The South Korean landscape unfolding through the window was both unfamiliar and fascinating to Seo-jun. Cleanly paved highways, endless apartment complexes, and roads filled with cars. Seeing it in person was worlds apart from what he had seen on the internet in Romania. "This is your first time seeing this, right? It must be surprising." The official read Seo-jun's expression. "Yes. It's so much more than I thought." Seo-jun couldn't finish his sentence. In North Korea, he had been taught that South Korean puppets were an American colony. But the scenery outside proved that everything he had learned was a lie. At 3 p.m. on May 20, 2019, the car arrived at the Settlement Support Office for North Korean refugees, commonly known as Hanawon. Located in a quiet area on the outskirts of Ansong, Gyeonggi Province. This facility was where North Korean defectors received education to adapt to South Korean society. After passing through the main gate into the administrative building, many people were moving through the corridors. Seo-jun detected North Korean dialects in the accents of some of them. "People like me." He felt a strange sense of kinship along with relief. After completing the admission procedures, Seo-jun was assigned to a two-person dormitory room. His roommate was Choi Min-chul, a man in his early 30s who had arrived earlier. "Hello, I'm Choi Min-chul. I'm from Cheongjin, North Hamgyong Province." Min-chul greeted him stiffly. Seo-jun responded just as formally. "I'm Kang Seo-jun. I'm from Pyongyang." "Pyongyang? Then you're elite. How did you end up here?" At Min-chul's question, Seo-jun briefly told his story studying abroad, awakening, escape. Min-chul nodded as he listened. "I crossed the Chinese border. It was December 2018. I crossed the Tumen River. I'll never forget that day." The two men bonded over their shared experiences. On May 21, 2019, Seo-jun's first day at Hanawon began. At 7 a.m., the wake-up announcement sounded. Seo-jun bolted upright in bed, a habit ingrained from North Korea. But Min-chul stretched leisurely. "This isn't North Korea. You can take your time." Seo-jun was bewildered by Min-chul's words. Walking down the corridor toward the cafeteria, Seo-jun received an even bigger shock. People were walking around in whatever comfortable clothes they wanted. Some wore sweatpants, others jeans. Even the lines were disorganized. When he arrived at the cafeteria, Seo-jun was astonished again. The buffet-style serving counter was full of food: rice, soup, kimchi as basics, plus bulgogi, steamed eggs, grilled fish, salad, fruit. The choices were overwhelming. "What would you like?" the server asked kindly. Seo-jun was flustered. In North Korea, you simply received what was rationed. The very concept of choice was foreign. I'll take everything." "Everything? Ha ha, take your time choosing. You can leave what you can't finish." Leave food? Seo Jun was confused. In North Korea, leaving food was unimaginable. At 10 a.m. on May 22, 2019, Seo Jun attended his first democracy class. The instructor was a political science professor in his late 50s. Everyone, what is democracy? Simply put, it's a system where the people are in charge. In the Republic of Korea, citizens choose the president. If they don't like them, they can change them in the next election. Murmurs spread throughout the classroom. Seo Jun felt the same way. Change the leader? And the people do it? Professor, then, is it okay to criticize the president? One student asked cautiously. Of course. Article 21 of the Constitution of the Republic of Korea guarantees freedom of expression. You can criticize the president, members of the National Assembly, and the government. That's the essence of democracy. The classroom fell silent. Everyone looked shocked. Seo Jun's head throbbed. This was the complete opposite of everything he had learned his entire life. During break time, Min Chul spoke to Seo Jun in the hallway. Everyone's like that at first. When I first heard it, I thought my head would explode. But you get used to it over time. Hung, can you really curse the president without getting arrested? You won't get arrested. Last week I watched the television news, and people were protesting in front of the Blue House. The police just watched. Seo Jun couldn't believe it. But that was the South Korean reality. On May 24, 2019, there was a market economy class. The instructor was a young economist in his late 30s. Everyone, in a market economy, prices are determined by supply and demand. The government doesn't set prices, the market does. Looking at the supply-demand curve drawn on the blackboard, Seo Jun felt dizzy. In North Korea, the party set all prices. 1 kilogram of rice costs this much, one outfit costs that much. Everything was predetermined. Then, teacher, what happens if prices keep rising? One student asked. Then people buy less, and prices come back down. That's the market's automatic adjustment function. Seo Jun didn't understand. Then how do poor people survive? If you have no money, do you starve? After class, he asked the instructor. Teacher, how do people without money live? Good question. That's why the Republic of Korea has a basic livelihood security system. The government provides minimum living support. Also, you can find a job and earn money. Find a job? Doesn't the state assign them? The instructor smiled and shook his head. No, you must find them yourself. That's both freedom and responsibility. On May 27, 2019, there was a daily life adaptation class. The day's topic was financial life. The instructor was a woman in her 30s with a banking background. Everyone, this is a credit card. You can buy things without cash. The instructor held up a plastic card. Seo Jun tilted his head. How can you buy something without money? The bank pays the money for you first. Then you pay it back later. What happens if you don't pay it back? Your credit score drops, and you won't be able to get loans in the future. Seo Jun was confused. The bank lends money based on trust? Based on an individual's credit? During practice time, Seo Jun practiced making payments with a virtual credit card. When he held the card to the terminal, a "payment complete" sound rang out. He had bought something without paying for it. It was like magic. Hung, this is really amazing. We didn't have this in North Korea. When he told Min Chul, he nodded too. I was surprised at first, too. But Seo Jun, you need to be careful. If you spend too much with credit cards, you'll be buried in debt. That's what the instructor said. On the evening of May 29, 2019, Seo Jun was watching television in the common lounge. The very act of changing channels with a remote was a novel experience. In North Korea, channels were fixed, and mostly only party propaganda broadcasts or documentaries aired. But South Korean television was different. News, dramas, variety shows, sports, movies. There were dozens of channels, all broadcasting different content. Oh, this is funny. A female defector in her 20s, sitting next to him, burst out laughing at a variety show. On screen, celebrities were playing games and teasing each other. Seo Jun was surprised. Is it okay to tease people like that? It's a variety show. They're doing it for fun. At her answer, Seo Jun nodded, but it still felt strange. In North Korea, teasing someone in a public setting was unimaginable. While flipping channels, the news came on. The anchor spoke with a serious expression. Today, civic groups held a rally in front of the Blue House opposing government policy. Participants shouted, "The government must listen to the people's voices." The screen showed people holding picket signs and chanting slogans. Police guarded the perimeter, but no one was arrested. Seo Jun couldn't close his mouth. Min Chul said from beside him, "At first, I was shocked too. That you won't get arrested for criticizing the government. I thought, this is real freedom." On June 3, 2019, it was group counseling time. The counselor sat in a circle with students to talk. The counselor was a woman in her early 40s with a gentle demeanor. Today, let's each talk about what surprised you most since coming to South Korea. They took turns sharing. Some mentioned the abundance of food, others the free atmosphere. It was Seo Jun's turn. I was surprised that people could speak so carelessly about the great leader, the president. The classroom suddenly fell silent. Seo Jun realized what he had said. The great leader, that was a North Korean expression. Oh, I'm sorry. The counselor smiled gently. It's okay, Seo Jun. Old habits don't change easily. This is a place where you don't need to use such expressions. The president isn't a great being, just a public servant chosen by the people. Seo Jun's face turned red. Along with embarrassment came realization. He felt anew how deeply he had been indoctrinated. That night, Seo Jun wrote in his diary. June 3, 2019. Today, I realized that North Korea still remains inside me. My body is here, but my heart is still there. How much more time will I need to become truly free? But I won't give up. Slowly, step by step, I will move forward. On June 10, 2019, Hanawon held a cultural experience day event. In front of students gathered in the auditorium, a singer performed, a trot singer in his late 30s. Everyone, let's sing together and have fun today. Do you know any songs? A few raised their hands. The singer began playing guitar and singing. It was a trot song called Love's Battery. People started clapping to the upbeat rhythm. Seo Jun was awkward at first, but gradually moved to the rhythm. Next to him, Min Chul was singing along excitedly. Seo Jun gathered courage and opened his mouth. Love's battery is all worn out, I'm discharged right now. As he sang, a strange sense of liberation washed over him. In North Korea, you couldn't sing unauthorized songs. South Korean songs were especially forbidden. But right now, at this moment, he was singing without any worries. After the performance, Seo Jun said to Min Chul, I think these small things are freedom. Singing the song I want, wearing the clothes I want, saying what I want to say. Min Chul patted Seo Jun's shoulder. That's right. This is the freedom we risked our lives to find. On July 15, 2019, the 12-week Hanawon education was coming to an end. Seo Jun had undergone many changes during this time. At first, everything was unfamiliar and confusing, but now he was gradually adapting. Last week included job preparation classes. They learned how to write resumes, conduct interviews, and practice workplace etiquette. Since you graduated from university, Seo Jun, consider transferring. Continuing your education is also a good choice. That was the counselor's advice. Seo Jun nodded. He had already made up his mind. He would transfer to a university and continue studying international relations. On July 19, 2019, the Hanawon graduation ceremony was held. About 60 students gathered in one place. The director gave a congratulatory speech. Everyone, congratulations. From today, you are proud members of South Korean society. There will be difficulties ahead, but don't give up. You are already people who have shown the greatest courage. Receiving his certificate, Seo Jun felt emotional. From Pyongyang to Romania, Romania to Hungary, and finally to South Korea. One stage of a long journey was ending. Leaving Hanawon, Seo Jun looked up at the sky. The blue July sky was dazzling. The real beginning starts now. Seo Jun made a promise. Based on what he learned at Hanawon, he was now ready to truly live in South Korean society. Though the road ahead remained uncertain, he was no longer afraid. His journey toward freedom would continue. On July 22, 2019, Kang Seo Jun unpacked his belongings in a small studio apartment in Gwanak District, Seoul. It was his first home, obtained with government support after completing Hanawon. Though barely 200 square feet, to Seo Jun, it was a castle of freedom. When he opened the window, Seoul's noise poured in car sounds, people's voices, and music from somewhere. I'm truly alone now, Seo Jun muttered. At Hanawon, he was always with someone. But now he had to solve everything by himself. Fear and excitement crossed paths. Opening the refrigerator, he found it empty. He needed to go to a nearby mart. Seo Jun grabbed his wallet and went outside. His settlement fund account from Hanawon contained initial living expenses. But he couldn't rely on that money forever. On August 5, 2019, Seo Jun went to Seoul National University's Graduate School of International Studies for transfer counseling. He brought his Kim Il-sung University diploma and transcripts. The counselor was a male staff member in his mid-30s. You graduated from a North Korean university. Academic recognition isn't easy. The verification process is complicated. But I graduated at the top of my class. And I also studied at the University of Bucharest in Romania for a year. Seo Jun explained desperately. The staff member looked uncomfortable. I understand that, but it's difficult to recognize North Korean academic credentials as is. You could take the GED or use the academic credit bank system. Seo Jun's heart sank. It meant the academic credentials he had built meant nothing here. After finishing the consultation, Seo Jun sat on a campus bench overlooking the Han River. Students freely came and went, laughing and chatting. Seo Jun envied them. They could pursue their dreams without any doubt. Why did I choose such a difficult path? Regret washed over him momentarily, but Seo Jun shook his head. No, he couldn't regret it. He had risked his life for freedom he couldn't break at this level of difficulty. On August 12, 2019, Seo Jun started a part-time job at a convenience store. It was the night shift at a 24-hour convenience store near campus. 8,350 won per hour, from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. On his first day, the manager showed him the basic tasks. Use the register like this, organize inventory like this. It won't be difficult. When there are no customers, just clean. Seo Jun nodded. He never imagined that he, one of Pyongyang's top elites, would be working at a convenience store. But he needed to earn a living. At 2 a.m., 2 drunk customers came in. Hey man, 1 bottle of soju. Seo Jun froze. The casual address. In North Korea, such rudeness was unimaginable. But here it was just everyday speech. Yes, soju. Here you go. Seo Jun responded calmly. While checking them out, one of the drunk customers asked, "Bro, your accent is unusual. Where are you from?" "I'm from the north." Suddenly, their expressions changed. "Oh, a defector? That must be tough. But why'd you come here? To make money?" Seo Jun found it awkward to answer. As they left after paying, the drunk customers muttered, "I heard a lot of defectors are coming these days. Just making job competition worse." Hearing those words, Seo Jun felt suffocated. He felt like an unwelcome presence. On August 20, 2019, Seo Jun was preparing for the Korean language proficiency test for university transfer. Though they used Korean in North Korea, South Korean was different. Studying with textbooks spread out in the library, there were too many foreign words. He could at least understand coffee, bus, and television, but words like monitoring, process, and system were hard to understand. A college student studying nearby spoke to Seo Jun. "You look like you're struggling. Are you a foreigner?" "Oh, no. I'm from the north." "Oh, a defector. Wow, this is my first time meeting one. You speak well. But some words are different?" "Yes. I'm learning Southern speech." The student kindly taught him several words. When Seo Jun mentioned that in North Korea they call computer, compyuter, and ice cream, ice lump, the student found it fascinating. "Ice lump? That's cute. Then what do you call chicken?" "Fried chicken meat." They both burst out laughing. Seo Jun felt comfortable for the first time in a while. Not everyone rejected him. On September 10, 2019, Seo Jun decided to take the GED. If his North Korean credentials couldn't be recognized, he had no choice but to start over. To prepare independently, he bought textbooks at a bookstore: Korean, English, math, social studies, science, Korean history. He had to study 6 subjects. At night, he worked at the convenience store, and during the day, he studied at the library. He only slept 4 to 5 hours a day. His body was exhausted, but he couldn't give up. Korean history was especially difficult. The history he learned in North Korea differed from South Korea's. The causes of the Korean War, the evaluation of the Syngman-rhee administration, economic development during the Park Chung-hee era. Everything was a new perspective. On October 5, 2019, Seo Jun met Choi Min-chul, his Hanawon classmate, at a small cafe in Sinchon. "Seo Jun, you look really worn out. Don't overdo it," Min-chul said with concern. "How are you doing, Hong?" "I got a job at a factory. A place that makes auto parts. It's tough, but at least I get a monthly salary." Min-chul talked about his situation. He had made a more practical choice than Seo Jun, choosing a stable job rather than university transfer. "Seo Jun, you're smart, so you can get into university. But don't overdo it. Your health comes first." Seo Jun felt grateful for Min-chul's advice. Just having someone who understood him in this strange land gave him strength. On November 16, 2019, Seo Jun entered the GED exam room at a high school in Seodaemun District, Seoul. The testing room had people of various ages, from teenagers to people in their 50s. Seo Jun sat down and tried to relax. "I can do this. I'm someone who graduated top of my class from Kim Il-sung University." He encouraged himself. At 9 a.m., the exam began. The first subject was Korean. Reading the passages, there were words he didn't know: nuance, irony, paradox. Foreign words. Seo Jun found answers by inferring from context. The English exam was relatively easy since he had used English a lot in Romania. Math wasn't a big problem either. But Korean history was the issue. Names of independence activists, dates of historical events. Content different from what he learned in North Korea confused him. Seo Jun filled out his answer sheet while sweating. At 4 p.m., all exams were finished. Leaving the testing room, Seo Jun felt deflated. There were subjects he felt confident about, but also subjects that worried him. On December 10, 2019, GED pass announcements were made. Seo Jun checked the results online from early morning. His hands trembled. He entered his test number and pressed the search button. The results appeared on screen. Pass. Tears burst from Seo Jun's eyes. Korean 82, English 95, Math 88, Social Studies 79, Science 85, Korean History 72. He passed all subjects. I did it. I really did it. Seo Jun cried aloud. The hardships of the past 4 months flashed through his mind like a panorama: all-night studying, convenience store night shifts, loneliness and anxiety. This was the result of enduring everything. He immediately called Min Chol. Hung. I passed. I passed the GED. Really? Congratulations, Seo Jun. Well done, really well done. Min Chol's joy was transmitted through the phone. On December 15, 2019, Seo Jun attended a transfer information session at a private university in Seoul. There was a transfer program for international relations. He could apply with his GED scores. After the session ended, Seo Jun cautiously asked an admissions office staff member, "Excuse me. I'm a North Korean defector. Will that be a problem for my application?" The staff member smiled warmly. "Of course not. Our school even has a special admission track for defectors. It could actually be a good opportunity. Have confidence." Seo Jun's heart warmed. There was a place that didn't reject him. Returning home, Seo Jun began filling out the transfer application. Writing the personal statement, he felt overwhelmed about where to start and where to end. Life in Pyongyang? Awakening in Europe? The defection process? Or my future dreams? Seo Jun deliberated. Then he decided, right truthfully, as it is. I was born in Pyongyang, North Korea. Following an elite path, I wanted to become a diplomat loyal to my country. But facing the truth in Europe, I realized the preciousness of freedom. Now I want to become an expert who contributes to true reconciliation and unification between North and South Korea. Seo Jun stayed up all night completing his personal statement. On January 8, 2020, Seo Jun attended a seminar hosted by a North Korean defector support organization. The theme was, Young People Preparing for the Era of Unification. A professor speaking as a panelist said, "Unification isn't simply a political union. It's the process of two societies divided for over 70 years becoming one. At the center must be defectors like you. You are the only generation that has experienced both sides." Seo Jun deeply resonated with those words. He felt his suffering wasn't in vain. After the seminar, Seo Jun approached the professor. "Professor, I also want to become a unification expert. How should I prepare?" The professor looked into Seo Jun's eyes and said, "Your experience itself is already a great asset. Organizing that experience academically and conveying it to society, that's what you should do." Seo Jun was certain. This was his path. On January 31, 2020, Seo Jun sat by his studio apartment window and wrote in his diary, "Today marks over half a year since I came to South Korea. At first, everything was unfamiliar and frightening. The walls of prejudice were high, and the difficulties of reality were great. But I didn't give up. I passed the GED, and now I'm preparing for university transfer. Like the Eastern European countries I defected through, someday the wind of freedom will blow through North Korea. I want to become a bridge contributing to that wave of change. A bridge connecting North and South Korea, connecting past and future. I won't waste this freedom, this opportunity I risked my life to find. I will live each day intensely. Until the day when this freedom reaches my friends and family remaining in North Korea." Seo Jun closed his diary and looked outside the window. Seoul's night scenery sparkled. Countless lights, countless people's lives. In the early morning of February 1, 2020, Seo-jun made a new resolution. I won't give up. I will overcome the prejudice of being a defector and be recognized as a true member of South Korean society. And someday I will become a unification expert and witness the day when South and North become one in true freedom and peace. Dawn was breaking outside. Seoul's dawn was brighter than Pyongyang's. No, it wasn't the brightness of light that differed, it was the light of hope. Kang Seo-jun's challenge would continue. His journey to put down roots had only just begun. On March 2, 2020, Kang Seo-jun received his college acceptance letter. It was for transfer admission to the second year of the International Relations Department at a private university in Seoul. The moment he pulled the thick envelope from his mailbox, Seo-jun's hands trembled. He opened the envelope and pulled out the acceptance letter. Dear Mr. Kang Seo-jun, we congratulate you on your admission to our International Relations Department. Reading those words, Seo-jun collapsed on the spot and burst into tears. Graduating top of his class in Pyongyang, studying in Romania, risking his life to defect, Hanawon education, the GED. Every step of the journey had culminated in this single piece of paper. Mother, I did it. Seo-jun pulled his mother's photo from his wallet. In the picture, his mother was still smiling brightly. Though it pained him that he couldn't share this news with her, he never abandoned hope that someday he would see her again. On March 16, 2020, it was the first day of the semester. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, classes were conducted online, but even that was something Seo-jun was grateful for. Just listening to a professor's lecture through a laptop screen felt like a miracle. The first class was International Politics Theory. The professor was a senior scholar in his early 60s. International politics is a game of power. But it's also a process of pursuing peace. The Korean Peninsula in particular is where the Cold War's last legacy remains. Seo-jun listened intently to the professor's words. He posted a question in the chat window. Professor, what's your view on the possibility of change in North Korea? The professor thought for a moment before answering. Good question. Looking at history, even closed systems eventually change. The collapse of Eastern European communism is an example. North Korea won't be an exception. The question is when and how. Seo-jun wrote down the professor's answer. He was no longer a student trapped in the past. He was a college student designing the future. On May 20, 2020, there was a team presentation in the Korean Peninsula Peace Theory class. The topic was Plans for Inter-Korean Exchange and Cooperation. Seo-jun prepared with 4 team members. One team member, Park Ji-hai, asked, Seo-jun, do you know much about North Korea? I'm looking for sources, but don't know which are reliable. Seo-jun hesitated briefly before confessing. Actually, I'm from North Korea. I'm a defector. The team members looked shocked for a moment. But their reaction was different from what Seo-jun expected. Really? Wow, then you know the actual situation in North Korea firsthand? Amazing. Then our presentation can be super realistic? The team members were actually interested. Seo-jun breathed a sigh of relief. While preparing the presentation, Seo-jun cautiously shared his experiences life in Pyongyang. The rationing system, changes in markets, the actual thoughts of residents. These were vivid stories not found in textbooks. On May 27, 2020, presentation day, Seo-jun gathered courage and spoke via Zoom. As someone who grew up in North Korea, I believe inter-Korean exchange and cooperation should be about human connection beyond simple economic benefits. North Korean residents also yearn for freedom. They just can't express it. After the presentation, the professor said, Student Kang Seo-jun, thank you for sharing your valuable experience. Knowing theory versus having direct experience are dimensions apart. Everyone, this is living education. Applause emoticons flooded the chat window. For the first time, Seo Jun stopped feeling ashamed of his past. On September 5, 2020, Seo Jun attended a regular meeting of an organization called South-North Youth Unification Alliance. It was a group where young people in their 20s and 30s gathered to discuss unification issues. North Korean Defector youth and South Korean youth worked together. The meeting place was a community center in Jongno District, Seoul. About 30 young people had gathered. Are there any newcomers today? At the moderator's question, Seo Jun raised his hand. Hello, my name is Kang Seo Jun. I defected in 2019 and I'm currently studying international relations in college. Applause erupted. A young man approached and offered a handshake. Nice to meet you. I'm Kim Yun-woo. I also defected in 2017. I'm from North Hamgyong Province. Seo Jun was glad. Meeting someone who had walked the same path was always comforting. The meeting covered various topics: North Korean human rights issues, defector settlement support, unification education. Seo Jun was particularly interested in the Voice of Defector Youth section. We need to speak about what we directly experienced. No one knows North Korea better than us. Seo Jun agreed with Yun-woo's words. On November 14, 2020, Seo Jun gave his first lecture. A high school had requested a defector guest lecture as part of unification education. The night before the lecture, Seo Jun read his script dozens of times. His palms were sweating. Can I really do this well? At 2 p.m. on November 14, 2020, Seo Jun stood on the auditorium stage. About 200 students sat before him. Seo Jun took a deep breath. Hello, I'm Kang Seo Jun. Today I want to share my story with you. Seo Jun calmly told his journey: elite life in Pyongyang, awakening in Romania, risking his life to defect, and settling in South Korea. I didn't know what freedom was. In North Korea, I lived according to what the party told me. But in Europe, I saw real freedom. People speaking their thoughts, pursuing their dreams, choosing their lives. The auditorium was quiet. Students listened breathlessly. The freedom you enjoy isn't something to take for granted. In North Korea, there are teenagers your age. They also have dreams, people they love, and picture their futures. But they have no choice. Seo Jun's voice trembled. What I want to ask of you is, don't forget North Korea. They're the same people. Someday we must live together. When the lecture ended, applause erupted. One student raised a hand to ask, Sunbae, what happened to your family? Can you contact them? Seo Jun was silent for a moment. No, I can't contact them. If they find out I defected, my family will be in danger. That's the most painful part. The auditorium became solemn. On June 10, 2021, Seo Jun submitted his end-of-term paper. The topic was Eastern European Regime Transitions and Research on North Korean Change Possibilities. It was a 50-page paper. In the paper, Seo Jun analyzed the process by which Eastern European countries like Romania, Poland, and Hungary transitioned from communist systems to democracy. He then drew implications for North Korea. The North Korean system isn't eternal either. History shows the inevitability of change. However, South Korea must prepare so that change can occur peacefully. His supervising professor gave the paper a high grade and said, Seo Jun, this paper goes beyond mere academic research. It's living research with your experience woven in. Consider graduate school. Seo Jun nodded. He had already made up his mind to pursue graduate school, major in North Korean studies, and become a unification expert. On October 3, 2021, National Foundation Day, Seo Jun participated in creating a message to North Korean residents. Video hosted by the South-North Youth Unification Alliance. Standing before the camera, Seo-jun spoke with a trembling voice. To my friends in the north, to my family, I'm now living in a land of freedom. Here, I can learn what I want, say what I want, and dream what I want. Tears welled in Seo-jun's eyes. I believe in the day when we'll meet again. When we can embrace freely without fear anymore. Until that day, I'll be a bridge here. A bridge connecting south and north. After filming, a staff member said, "That was moving. This video will definitely reach North Korean residents." Seo-jun nodded. He desperately hoped that the message would reach his mother in Pyongyang, his friends. On February 14, 2022, Seo-jun received his graduate school acceptance notification. It was for the master's program in North Korean studies at the same university's Graduate School of International Studies. Hearing the acceptance news, Seo-jun called Choi Min-chul, his Hanawon roommate. "Hong, I got into grad school. Congratulations, Seo-jun. You're really amazing. A graduate student just 3 years after defecting." Genuine joy filled Min-chul's voice. "How are you doing these days, Hong?" "I'm a factory foreman now. Life is stable. I can't study like you, but I'm living my own way." "You're really amazing too, Hong. We're each doing our best on our own paths." The two talked for a long time, looking back on the past. On March 1, 2022, Independence Movement Day, Seo-jun attended the Independence Memorial Ceremony held at Tapgul Park. Watching the Taegukgi flag flutter, Seo-jun felt deeply moved. "This is now my country's flag." After the ceremony, Seo-jun sat on a park bench and wrote his 10-year plan in his notebook. 2022 to 2024 Master's Program, Research on North Korean Regime Change. 2024 to 2027 Doctoral Program, Research on South-North Integration Models. 2027 to 2030 Work at the Korea Institute for National Unification or as a university professor. After 2030 contribute to reconciliation and integration of South and North Korean residents as an expert preparing for the unification era. Seo-jun put down his pen and looked up at the sky. The March sky was clear and blue. On May 4, 2022, the third anniversary of his defection, Seo-jun woke early and walked along the Han River. 3 years ago on this day, he knocked on the door of the Republic of Korea Embassy in Budapest. And now he was freely walking along the Han River in Seoul. On the Han River Bridge, Seo-jun stopped. The river flowed serenely from north to south, from past to future. Seo-jun pulled his mother's photo from his pocket. Though the picture was now worn and faded, his mother's smile remained bright. "Mother, I'm keeping my promise. The promise not to waste freedom, to live a meaningful life. When I see you again someday, I'll be a son you won't be ashamed of." Seo-jun held the photo to his chest and walked on. Graduate classes, youth organization activities, lectures, research. His days were busy. But it was meaningful busyness. That evening, Seo-jun sat at his studio apartment desk and wrote in his diary. May 4, 2022. Third anniversary of defection. I'm no longer someone trapped in the past. I'm a witness to freedom, a messenger of hope. I hope my story gives courage to people remaining in North Korea. A future where South and North Korea become one in true freedom and peace, that's my dream. For that dream, today and tomorrow, I will move forward step by step. Seo-jun opened the window. Seoul's night air came in. The air of freedom, the air of hope. He breathed deeply. Thank you for this freedom." Kang Seo-jun's story hasn't ended. His journey continues. As a free person, as a young man dreaming of becoming a unification expert, and as a witness to hope. Under the sky of the Republic of Korea, Kang Seo-jun designs the future today.